Welcome back, Brooklyn Nets fans. There's a little bit to talk about. Just kidding. There's a lot to talk about pertaining to the Nets and the whole situation with Kyrie Irving is where we'll start off, of course. Now, I'll just get into it real quickly. The whole situation here. So, Kyrie Irving is not vaccinated, as most of you probably know. There is a vaccine mandate in New York where the Nets happen to play, and you are not allowed to be inside of public venues, I believe, if you're not vaccinated. You could get a religious exemption. I don't think Kyrie was granted that if he even tried it. So obviously Kyrie Irving right now is not allowed to play at Nets home games. Now he was allowed to practice with the Nets. They did declare that it was a private facility, so Kyrie was able to practice with the Nets. But they came out today and said Kyrie Irving is not going to join the Nets until he is a full participant. So Kyrie Irving will not be really a member of the Nets until he's fully vaccinated. He's still on the roster, but he won't play until he's fully vaccinated. So that's the situation right now. I'm not going to sit here and crap on Kyrie like most people will. I'm a huge Kyrie Irving fan. I love the way he plays. I think he's a great guy, honestly. Does he make some decisions that a lot of people don't agree with? Sure, but Kyrie Irving gives back to the community more than just about anybody. He does a lot for people, and I think he has a good heart. I really do. The whole situation as a Nets fan is frustrating, I will say, and I wish he would get the shot, but, it is what it is. I do believe that this will work itself out. I don't think it's the biggest issue in the world right now. Does it suck? Yeah, it does, because this might be the most talented Nets team I get to see in my lifetime. I understand, this is maybe the best basketball team I will get to watch in my life, and now the Nets' second or third best player won't be there, basically by choice. And it came out recently, like literally an hour ago, that Kyrie Irving is not anti-vaccine, apparently. He wants to be really a voice for the voiceless, is the way they put it, in terms of people that are losing their jobs over vaccine mandates. He's trying to stand up for people that lost their jobs due to vaccine mandates. That may make you look at the situation worse than it is, or maybe better than it is. I don't know. But that's apparently why Kyrie Irving is taking this stance, is to stand up for people that had their jobs taken from them because there was a vaccine mandate and they didn't want to get the vaccine. That's why he's taking the stance. Apparently, that's what Shams Charania, I believe, wrote in an article that came out kind of recently. So if that's the case, then okay, I don't know if I fully get behind that, but that's the way it is right now. But anyway, with the Nets, and Kyrie Irving, it's just, I can't sit here and say I hate Kyrie Irving, you're the worst in the world. I can't say that because honestly, guys, without Kyrie Irving, none of this happens. We might be led by D'Angelo Russell if Kyrie Irving never came along, And not to say D'Angelo was bad. He was a great net. But still, it's not where we would have been right now. The Nets would not have been NBA Finals favorites or even contenders right now if Kyrie Irving never joined here. Kevin Durant's not a net if Kyrie doesn't join here. James Harden's not a net if Kyrie doesn't join here. I'm sure LaMarcus Aldridge, Paul Millsap, every other good veteran, Blake Griffin. I'm sure every other veteran on this team is not a Brooklyn Net if Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, of course, because they were more of a package deal, don't come here in the summer of, 2019, I believe. That's why I can't be mad at Kyrie Irving. Yes, it's annoying. I completely get that. But I can't sit here and say I hate Kyrie Irving because none of this is possible without him. He's the one that really got this thing started. And him being, from New Jersey, I'm sure wanted to come back here and be local. And the Nets, of course, were close. He grew up a New Jersey Nets fan, as we know. So I can't sit here and say, oh, Kyrie Irving is the worst. He's so selfish. Because I don't think selfish is the right word to use for him. I talked about all the charities he's given to and how much he does for people. I think the guy has a good heart. I really do. You can say maybe he's selfish because this is a team sport and the Nets would be better with him, but he wants to take a stance for people. That's the way he feels right now. And I do believe that eventually it will work itself out. I do believe that. And realistically for the Nets, it would be better to have him, obviously, but the Nets don't need Kyrie Irving in the regular season. They don't. I honestly think the positive light I could put on this situation is that Kyrie Irving won't get injured now. That's probably the best thing I could say about this because Kyrie Irving, as we know, has had knee issues in the past. He, hurt his ankle last year in the playoffs, as we know. And, if he's not playing basketball, he's going to be practicing. But if he's not playing in NBA games, the chances of him getting injured are a lot less than if he was playing. So I guess that's the positive. And I do think we have 6-7 months up until April when the playoffs begin. I think this situation will resolve itself by April. That's the important part. Now, If Kyrie was not there for the playoffs, that concerns me. Yes, but that's 6-7 months down the line. I think this Nets team with just James Harden and Kevin Durant, and obviously they got to stay healthy, but that and the supporting cast they have, and if the Nets relatively stay healthy throughout this regular season, which, it's a lot to ask for, I get it, but if they do stay relatively healthy, this Nets team should be a top 3 team in the East. There's no doubt about it. So if there was Kyrie Irving, it would help, but even without him, this Nets team can survive and get to the playoffs, and hopefully by the time they get to the playoffs, this situation will be resolved. Kyrie Irving is a grown man. He can make decisions for himself. If this is what he wants to stand for right now, then I think his teammates will get behind him. I think Nets fans should get behind him. Of course, it's frustrating as Nets fans. I get it. I want to see him playing opening night a week from now in Milwaukee. Believe me, I get it. I want to see him out there. I love watching the guy play. But if this is the stance he wants to take right now, then I think we all got to support that. It's just the way I look at it. So I think he'll be back by the playoffs. I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't think it'll take the entire season. I think by some point this year, we're going to hit this breaking point where Kyrie Irving, has had enough and wants to start playing again. Like, I think this guy, he's not really a fan of the business of basketball. Kyrie has explained that before, but Kyrie Irving loves to play basketball. He does love doing that. So I'm not saying he'll play for another 5-6 years. I don't know how much longer he wants to play, but Kyrie Irving loves basketball. I don't know how much longer he'll be away from that. And for how close he is with Kevin Durant, even James Harden, I know those guys want him to play as well. So I do think this will work itself out. Maybe I'm being too optimistic. We'll see how it plays out the next couple of months or so. But for now, I'm not overly worried. It just sucks. The situation is crappy. I gotta admit. But I do think it works itself out. So that's where I stand with the Kyrie Irving thing. But I just wish it was a better situation. Anyway, for the preseason games, we'll get back to the Nets team itself now. The Nets have played 3 preseason games now. They played the Lakers the first one, they played the Bucks the second one, then they played the Sixers last night, and they got demolished against Philly. The final score wasn't that bad, but there was a point in that game where it was ugly. End of the third quarter, and they literally just couldn't even get a shot up because they were turning the ball over so much. But anyway, I'll go over what I saw so far. I admittedly have not watched every single minute of the Nets in the preseason, but I watched a good amount of each game. So the priority number 1 is that they're all healthy. I just talked about Kyrie Irving and being healthy. That's the positive outlook about this situation. Kevin Durant's made it through healthy so far. James Harden's made it through healthy so far. Knock on wood. Hopefully it stays that way. That's the most important part. Like, you'll see some fans overreact about preseason, how the Nets don't look good and whatnot. It's like, just calm down. They're fine. As long as they're healthy, it's all I care about right now. That's the number 1 important thing about this. Javon Carter, of course, they got him in that deal for Landry Shamet on draft night, I believe. They got the late pick in the 20s, first-round pick from the Suns, and they also got Javon Carter. And Javon Carter is better than I thought he would be. Like, when I went back and watched him on YouTube, I was like, okay, this guy plays, really tough defense, and he has some offensive game, but he has more of an offensive game than I thought he would. Like, he was actually taking 3-pointers off the dribble. Like, I was not expecting that, and he was making them. He's a better shooter than I thought he was, better ball handler than I thought he was. So Javon Carter, especially with the absence of Kyrie Irving now, will have a role on this team for sure. Like, he'll make this team. He'll have a role, and I like Javon Carter. I think he's going to be a very sneaky pickup for this team, especially during the playoffs when this team needs defense. Javon Carter's going to be a sneaky pickup, so I do like what I saw from him so far. James Johnson, they signed him to probably a 1-year deal, close to the minimum, if not the minimum. He's probably 33, 34 by now. But just a big wing guy. I forget how big he is, maybe 6'9", 6'10", but he is that presence that the Nets have tried to have with Wilson Chandler and Jeff Green in the past. Like that, Sean Marks wants a guy like this on his team. And I will say James Johnson so far has not made a big impact offensively, but defensively, you notice the impact. His post defense is really good for a guy that's really considered a small forward, power forward. He'll probably play more of the 4 on this team. That's the way it's looked so far. But his post defense is actually very impressive. So while I don't expect James Johnson to make the biggest impact offensively, he'll help this team a lot defensively, whether it's, trying to guard Giannis in the future or trying to help on Embiid. I mean, the Nets got beat up by Embiid yesterday in the first half. I mean, I'll talk about that later, but James Johnson's just a big-bodied defender, a veteran. Sometimes he'll make 3-pointers for you. Sometimes he'll drive to the basket for you offensively, but I think defensively he'll help this team out a lot. So far it's looking like a pretty nice signing. Cam Thomas. I mean, Cam Thomas is awesome. I have to say, for a 19-year-old, 1 year at college, he has been such a just better than anyone could have expected so far. The kid can score, and he has all the confidence in the world, and I like that. Now, there have been moments this preseason where Cam Thomas sometimes does, like, I'm not going to say he seemed overwhelmed, but Cam Thomas sometimes maybe gets a little overconfident in his ability where he'll drive to the middle of the floor and they'll have 2 or 3 guys swiping at the ball and he'll lose the ball. So, like, for example, there was that game against the Bucks, the home game the Nets played so far in the preseason, and Cam Thomas entered the game with about 8 minutes to go. And from that time, the 8-minute mark to about the 1-minute mark, Cam Thomas was not playing that well at all. I think he had that one play where, actually, no, that was with less than a minute left, so never mind that. But he didn't play well the first 6-7 minutes he was in the game, and he kept turning the ball over, and some passes were getting intercepted. It did not look that good. But then Cam Thomas, in the final minute of that game, even final 30 seconds of that game, something clicked for him. And he just looked like Cam Thomas. He had that awesome play where the dude tried to flop, and he flopped 20 feet, and Cam Thomas made him like slide under the basket, and Cam Thomas hit that top of the key jumper for 2, I think, to tie up the game. And then there was one, the next possession where the Nets took a lead on a 3-point shot by Cam Thomas. So he's been clutch for this team. He is not afraid of the big moments. I think sometimes he'll get overconfident and try and drive through 3 or 4 people, and it hasn't worked out. But once that stuff is worked out and that whole like mental part of the game gets to him, like the sky's the limit. Like Cam Thomas is talented enough to be, I think, one of the better scorers in the NBA. By the time he's 23, 24, and he's like really grown up. Right now he's 19. So, I mean, it may not even take that long. Maybe by the time he's 21, 22, he'll be one of the better scorers in this league. I mean, maybe I'm a bit overconfident in his ability, but so far I've been very impressed. So, it's tough to come in here at 19 and perform against NBA guys, but he can score against them. So far, Cam Thomas is off to a good start. LaMarcus Aldridge looks spry. He does. I mean, LaMarcus Aldridge, of course, didn't play the final quarter of last year. He's, sat out with the heart condition, had to temporarily retire. And I think LaMarcus Aldridge now, he's up there. He's like 37 years old maybe, but something about him looks different. He just looks more spry this year is the best way I can put it. And I think LaMarcus Aldridge, they missed that presence so much, especially in the Milwaukee series last year, where if the Nets are struggling offensively, and they were in a situation, of course, in Game 4 where Kyrie was out the second half and James Harden was out with the hamstring issue, the Nets had no other source of offense other than Kevin Durant, who was overwhelmed. Like, there were times where they really could have used a post presence like LaMarcus Aldridge and give him the ball in the post and do his signature turnaround shot on the left side or left block. They could have used that a lot of times from LaMarcus Aldridge. Like, he can stretch the floor. He'll make an open 3 for you here and there, and he can definitely post up with the ball in his hands. And, he's just a really good player. I mean, LaMarcus Aldridge is maybe a borderline future Hall of Famer. I don't know, but so far he's looking good. I mean, the age thing is not really concerning me so far. Maybe he'll break down later in the year. I hope not. But just so far, at least, LaMarcus Aldridge is a big help for this team, and he will give them what they need offensively. Obviously, the Nets want to focus on passing the ball around and getting the best look, but in times where the offense is struggling, you can give LaMarcus Aldridge the ball from 10 to 15 feet away, and he'll get you 2 points pretty easily. So I think it's great to have him back, and I'm happy he's back. Paul Millsap and Blake Griffin versus Embiid and Drummond. So this is when I was watching the game last night. It was Monday night, and I was kind of flipping back between that and the Monday Night Football game, the Ravens and Colts game. But every time I was watching the Nets, they had a lot of problems with rebounding. I noticed that for sure. They had problems guarding Joel Embiid. I saw Blake Griffin try to guard him in the first quarter. Didn't go so well. Then Paul Millsap came in. That didn't go so well. And they couldn't really out-rebound these guys. I mean, the Sixers they forced so many turnovers against us. Like, the Nets were not ready for the defensive intensity by the Sixers, I will say that. But we had problems rebounding against them as well. So that's a concern. I know Drummond and Embiid are 2 mammoth guys, and it's tough to out-rebound them. But, the Nets don't really have a true center. Like LaMarcus Aldridge, back when he was in Portland and whatnot, he was more of a power forward. Paul Millsap's always been a power forward, and Blake Griffin's always been a power forward. We're kind of making these power forwards in the 5s and expecting it to work. And I guess with the more small ball approach in today's NBA, it's possible to make this work, but the Nets don't really have that true 7-foot center unless you include Day'Ron Sharpe, who they drafted late in the first round this year. So that's really the only thing that concerns me about this team right now. Their defense hasn't looked that great. I will say that. The Nets defense is having some issues right now with communication and whatnot. They'll get it sorted out, but I do hope they're ready for the first game of the season a week from now. Nick Claxton only had 21 minutes in 2 games. I don't think he played in the game last night, but the first 2 games, I believe, he combined for 21 minutes. So is it possible that Nick Claxton is out of the rotation? Is he nursing some type of injury they don't want to tell us about? I don't know. But maybe Nick Claxton has to earn these minutes. I think for us Nets fans, we set these expectations for Nick Claxton to be a breakout player here in year number 3. I think it's year 3 for him, but or maybe it's 4. I forget, but year 3 or 4, whatever it is. But have this breakout season. I think it's 3. But anyway, we expect him to have this breakout year. And maybe he's not ready for it right now. And playing over these veteran guys, these established veterans, and once again, Blake Griffin, Paul Millsap, LaMarcus Aldridge, it's probably not the easiest thing for a guy who's 21, 22 years old, like Nick Claxton is. So maybe he has to earn these minutes. The Nets are not going to give it to him. So, I don't know what the problem is and why he's not playing right now, but I think the veterans right now have the upper hand in playing time. I will say that. So, maybe towards the middle of the season when, they want to give guys some rest, Nick Claxton will play more. But for now, to open the season, I don't know if Nick Claxton has an established role yet, but we'll see how that goes once the season starts here. So Patty Mills, does he fit in? I think definitely. He didn't play that well yesterday. I think he had 0 points actually, but the game against Milwaukee, you can see the impact that Patty Mills was having on this team. He was making his open threes, which is definitely big when you have all these other guys on the floor, like Harden and Durant getting all the attention. Patty Mills can be that guy that we needed when Joe Harris was off last year in the playoffs. Like, Patty Mills is going to be that guy who can come in and run point guard for you when you need it, because once again, not having Kyrie Irving will give Patty Mills more minutes and more of a responsibility. But Patty Mills is up for the challenge. Like, I don't see why not. He's played in a bunch of big games in his career. He still looks spry at the age of 33 now, I think. So, Patty Mills is not a concern for me whatsoever. He'll fit in with this team, and, as long as he makes his open shots, he'll be fine. I can't ask for much more. He's not the greatest defender, but he's showing effort. I think that's a very important part of defense is effort, and Patty Mills has shown that. So there's actually a point yesterday where Kevin Durant was even showing a bunch of effort on defense. Kevin Durant, I want him to take it easy. I'm like, all right, calm down. Don't try too hard. But Patty Mills has shown a lot of effort defensively, so that's really all I care about. The Nets defense and rebounding, I talked about it. That's my main concern about this team right now. The Nets can outscore anybody. It's kind of like the Kansas City Chiefs in the NFL. They don't play the best defense, but most of the time they can outscore people. I don't want the Nets to have to rely on outscoring everybody. That's a concern for me. And I do believe that the coach that went to the Celtics, who used to be on the Nets, I forget the guy's name. I'm not going to remember it now. But anyway, the Nets coach, who was an assistant last year, he's now the head coach of the Celtics. He was more of their defensive guy last year. So losing him kind of concerns me in a way. Of course, they lost Mike D'Antoni as well. So they got some new coaches on the staff here, but at the same time, they should figure it out. Like, James Harden didn't look that great on defense yesterday, I will say. Harden looked really good offensively yesterday. He looked very explosive, but defensively was not that great. So the Nets may have some issues on defense. Joe Harris is not known as the best defender, as we know. So they will have their concerns on defense, but as long as the effort's there, I think they'll be fine. They got a rebound as well. You can't lose the rebounding advantage by 10, 15 rebounds every night. You can't have that. But when we play these bigger teams like the Sixers and even Milwaukee, some of the better teams in the East even, it's just concerning that we're not going to be able to out-rebound them. So that is a concern I have, I will say. But I do think it will work itself out because we can outscore and outshoot just about any team there is. DeAndre Bembry definitely could have a role, and when I watched him when we signed him, I wasn't really too familiar with him. I've seen him play before, but I wasn't too familiar. But his defensive anticipation was great. That's like the one thing I noticed that really stood out to me, and I saw a couple plays in the preseason. I think he played in that Bucks game because he was the guy that Thanasis Antetokounmpo fouled very hard. I was not a fan of that, honestly, but he fouled him hard going to the basket, almost had an awkward landing, but DeAndre Bembry has had a couple plays already where he's anticipated the pass lane and intercepted a pass. Like, he will do that for you on defense. He will give you effort on defense. And Bembry, I guess he's a bit better than I thought he was offensively. Like, he can drive the ball to the basket and get some stuff done. Like, he's not ever going to be a great offensive player, but if he can give you a little something and that defense he plays, it'll be a positive. So DeAndre Bembry is not going to have a massive role on this team, but once again, the Nets are going to need guys on this team to play defense, and Bembry can be that guy. So far, I've liked what I've seen from him. As for like Day'Ron Sharpe and guys like that, he'll probably start in the G League as like that two-way guy. Like, I don't think he'll have a massive role for this team right away. And, maybe he has to earn a spot over Nick Claxton. We'll find out how that goes. But I do have some pretty high hopes for Day'Ron Sharpe going forward. I think he could be a good player. So we'll find out what happens in the future with that. But I'm trying to think who else. I mean, we've had some other draft picks. Who was the Zagorowski, I think his name is, hasn't played that much. And there was the other guy, something Gray. I forget his name. Big point guard. He's like 6'8". He's big. I forget. But anyway, we've had a couple other draft picks that have not really contributed yet in the preseason. But I don't know. They'll probably be G League guys anyway. So, get them down there and get some experience, and hopefully they improve. But we'll see. Anyway, I'm excited for the first game of the year, a week from tonight. I want to beat Milwaukee. I hate that team very much. So I want to beat them, of course, and kind of ruin that, the ring ceremony for them and all that. So I'm still salty about it. Anyway, for Kyrie Irving, I think it'll work itself out. I will keep saying that until I'm proven otherwise. I think, Kevin Durant will probably hopefully convince him at some point, like, hey, we need you. There will probably come a point in the year where the Nets will unfortunately face injuries, and Kyrie Irving will be that guy that hopefully we can just throw in there, and he'll be one of the better additions. Because like teams can make trade deadline additions and whatnot, but if we get Kyrie Irving back as an addition, like that's going to be a huge addition to this Nets team. So Kyrie is one of the better players in the league when he's on the floor, but there's a lot of baggage that comes along with that, as we know. So anyway, I support him, and I hope he's back soon. That's pretty much all I could say about that situation. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed here. I was rambling for 21 minutes. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you guys want like reactions to games this year, let me know. I'm not going to be able to do it every night, I'm sure, but I'll do reactions to Nets games here and there. Of course, it's tough during football season with all the football stuff I do, but I'll try to talk about the Nets whenever I have free time. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll talk to you guys next time.